So we're going to look at 8.1, adding and subtracting polynomials. You have done this. You've added and subtracted polynomials. You did this when you did basic combining like terms. All right, you're taking all your terms. You know, your x variables go together, your y variables go together, and all that. The reason we're doing this as a new thing is because we're going to now incorporate with what happens if like the variable has an exponent. And some of you may have seen these and whatnot. And this should hopefully be kind of a nice, easy lesson, good transition from the crazy chapter 7. Kind of get into kind of some normalish stuff. One reason we had to do chapter 7 beforehand is we are going to be multiplying exponents. And so we had to build that skill for us. So again, this is 8.1, adding and subtracting polynomials. Our goal today is to write polynomials in standard form, and then also to add and subtract the polynomials. So remember at the top of your notes page, I'd write 8.1, adding and subtracting polynomials, and then make sure you write today's date as well. All right, so we have 3 things we're going to look at. The first thing we're going to look at is a monomial. A monomial is something like that, just 5x. Another example of a monomial, like 3x squared. That's a monomial. Right? It's just one term. Right? It's got a coefficient, it's got a variable. Technically, like the number 4, that is technically a monomial. Right? Mono means one. So basically it just means like one term, one type of value. The next one we're going to look at is a binomial. Bi means 2, like a bicycle has 2 wheels. And so for this one, we have 2 terms here. We have the 2x squared and we have the plus 7. Those are our 2 terms, binomial 2. Now, you could see something like this, like 4x minus 1. That is also a binomial. And the next one, trinomial. Tri means 3, like a triceratops had 3 horns. And for this one, we have 3 terms. We have x cubed, we have a negative 10x, and we have a positive 1. This is why it's a trinomial, because there's 3 different ones. Another example of a trinomial, let's say 3x squared plus 2x, let's go minus 5. Something like that. That will give us a trinomial as well, because there are 3 terms there. And anything after a trinomial, we just call a polynomial, all right? I know you might think, oh, well, 4, quadnomial. No, we just call it a polynomial. And technically, all 3 of these are considered polynomials as well. That's why the lesson was called adding and subtracting polynomials, right? So these are these, and you'll hear me say and use these terms, and I know I've used these terms throughout the class. All right, so how do we get something into standard form of a polynomial? All right, standard form means terms in order from greatest to least degree. And our degrees are our exponents, okay? So we want them from from greatest to least. Okay, so we want the biggest exponent listed first, and then the smallest exponents listed last. So if we look here, if we wanted to get this into standard form, I would move my 3x to the 6th power. That would go first because it's the biggest one, plus 9x squared, and then minus 4x because we're 6, 2, 1. We're greatest to least. So this right here is it in standard form, right? Greatest to least. Okay, so just reorganizing them to put them in standard form. All right, so let's just jump right into this. How do we add polynomials? Well, you've done something like this before. Okay? And if we're taking this 7y squared plus 2y minus 3, and we want to add 2 minus 4y plus 5y squared, what we're going to do here is we are going to distribute this plus sign to every term over here. So we're going to rewrite this front one, and we got to get rid of these parentheses because there's nothing being distributed. And then we distribute this plus sign. A positive and a positive makes us a positive 2. A positive and a negative makes us a negative 4y. And a positive and a positive makes us a positive 5y squared. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to combine like terms. Like terms are variables raised to the same degree. So we have a 7y squared. Do we have any other y squared? Yes, we have this 5y squared. So we combine them. 7 plus 5 is going to give me a 12y squared. Then we're going to go to the next term. The next term is a positive 2y. And it also has a negative 4y that I can combine with. Remember, we include the operation in front. So we have a positive 2 plus a negative 4 is going to give us a negative 2y. And then the last term we're going to use here, our last term. Nope, I don't want red, I want black. Okay, let's change up our colors. We have a negative 3 and a positive 2. Negative 3 plus 2 turns into a negative 1. And there are no more like terms. This is a y squared. This is a y to the first power. So they are not like terms. We do not combine them together. This is our final answer right here. So this is adding polynomials. So what I want you to do is I want you to pause the video and try this one on your own. So please pause your video, try this on your own, and see if you can solve this. All right, so if you did this on your own, you should have gotten the answer 2x squared plus 3x plus 1 should have been your final answer. All right. Next, if we see something like this, so we have a negative in front. What we need to do with this negative sign is we need to distribute it to every term. So we have a negative and a positive is going to be a negative 3x squared. A negative and a positive would be a negative 19x. And a negative and a negative would then become a positive 13. So if you see a negative out in front, what you need to do is you need to distribute that negative. And then you need to make sure, it changes the sign of every term you're distributing it to. Right? So the reason I led into that is what happens if I subtract polynomials? So if I take this negative and I distribute it here, and I take this negative and distribute it here, and take this negative and distribute it here. When I do that, I'm going to rewrite this. My front's not going to change, so we're going to have 6y squared plus 8y to the 4th minus 5y. And then we're going to distribute this negative sign. We have a negative 9, so negative 9y to the 4th. We have a negative and a negative is going to make this a positive 7y. And then we have a negative and a positive, which is going to make this a negative 2y squared. And now we're going to go through and we're going to combine like terms. We have an 8y to the 4th and we have a negative 9y to the 4th. So that's going to be a negative 1y to the 4th. We have a 6y squared and a negative 2y squared. That's going to turn into a 4y squared. And then we have a negative 5y plus 7y is going to turn into a 2y. And then we are done. None of those can be combined together. So that is our answer here. So remember, when you have the negative sign in the middle of them, so you're subtracting, you need to distribute this negative to every term to the right of the parentheses. It needs to be distributed to everything. So it changes the sign of everything to the right. The front does not change unless there's a negative sign in front. All right, so what I want you to do is I want you to pause the video now. And once you pause the video now, I want you to do this on your own. So if you pause it, And then what I would like you to do is try it. And then hit play and see if you got the right answer. So you should be pausing now. All right, so you should have received the answer or gotten to the answer 6x cubed minus 4x squared plus 6x minus 2. Okay. Now, the 6x had nothing to join with, so that's why it stays as the 6x. And when you distribute that negative sign, you should have gotten those. Right? So this is the answer you should have received from this, okay? So this is adding and subtracting polynomials. Okay, oh, that says practice. So this is this. Now, when on your practice, you're going to get a problem that's going to ask about perimeter. Think about, how do you find the perimeter of a rectangle? You add up all the sides. So all you're doing is you're adding all the polynomials together. And then you also see another one on your practice that will be a who did it wrong, if any of them did it wrong. So you're going to look to see those. So yeah, so good luck on your practice, and hopefully that you are able to get this figured out. If not, make sure you ask questions.